So we're back on our square body 1975 step side again. Last time we determined the rear axle was completely shot. It's just either somebody set the gear setup wrong or something happened with the bearings, got loose enough that it's eaten itself. There's no coming back from that. So I guess we need to look at the front axle and see where we're at on that. Is that one shot too, or do we just have to replace the rear, or what are we going to do with this thing? Because I want to get this thing back on the road. It's been sitting here, and while it looks good in the background on camera, I would like to actually drive it. So let's see what we can do to resolve the axle issues with this truck. So we know about the rear axle. We need to look at this front axle because, well, now we're not certain, because if the same guy built both axles, then we're really in trouble. But I just don't know anything about this, and looking at replacing the rear axle, if I get a used one, there's a couple things I want to verify, and one is that these gear ratios actually match, because now I'm less confident in any of this. You know, once you find one little thing, you want to know it was done right. Do we even know the gear ratios match? I don't know. This one appears to have a axle tag on it, but we'll take a look at that. But we'll also look on the gears. Also got to check what ratio the rear is. I haven't done that yet. We'll get to that. Okay, let's pull this cover off and, well, see what lies beneath, basically. Moment of truth. Fluid looks good, but the other fluid did too that was in there, but this looks a little better. There we go. Okay, I'm seeing good things. Good things. Yeah, these gears look great. Yes. Okay, fantastic. Okay, it says 4511 on it. So we got a good front axle, we got a bad rear axle. They're both 410 gear ratio. Well, the front's 409, but you know, that's pretty standard when you have different manufacturers. They might be within a 0.01 of each other, but back's 410, front's 409. It's close enough, they make it work. Anyway, we got a good front axle, bad rear axle, so we got some options here. We can replace just the rear axle. Problem is 411s are rare. I've been looking for just a 411 to replace the rear, just a used bolt-in axle. I can just quick bolt up in under it and fix this. Can't find one. I did find one 411, but they want way too much for it for what it is. It still needs a lot of work. Needs welding on it. Yeah, it's not pretty. Other option is we get a matched set of axles at a different gear ratio, swap both axles, just pull the old ones out, throw the new ones in, and have done with it. That is the cheaper option at this point and the more readily available. If I keep waiting for a 411 to do this, I'm going to wait a long time. I don't want to get this truck back on the road. I'm not going to rebuild the gear set myself. It's too much work, and it's not something you want to do outside in your driveway when you're working on grass and stuff. It needs to be clean, it needs to be done right, and I'm not even sure I have all the right tools anymore. You need a complete set of dial gauges to get the pinion offset and everything right. I'm not sure I even have that set anymore. It's been years since I've done a internal axle gear set, so I'm kind of going to eliminate that option right out of the gate, and we're just going to go right to some used options. So basically I'm going to see what I can find in gear ratios that are as close to 411 as I can get, either up or down, because it's all going to be cost related. What can I find? These little axles, the rear is a corporate 12 bolt, the front is a Dana 44. In smaller axles like this, half-ton axles, 411s and up are pretty rare, unless somebody's built them themselves. So really hard to find. Probably not going to find that. I'm going to shoot for a 373 because that's more common, but the problem is 342s I think are the most common, but 373 is still pretty close. We'll sacrifice some acceleration, we'll gain some top end. you know, it's always a trade-off with axles like this. Not quite as great for off-roading. Be nicer to have a higher, you know, a bigger gear ratio, taller gear ratio for off-roading. You know, you go up into the 5s and so on, and I don't think we're going to be able to do that. That's not really an option because I don't have the money to spring for that. We're talking thousands of dollars to either get axles built or find the right set, or drive hundreds of miles to get the used set. Not going to happen. So let's see what we can find used. So I had to pick up some axles down south of me, and I heard this thing was a couple towns over, and I just had to take a look at it and see. This is a space shuttle external tank. This is really cool. I'm a nerd at heart, so you know, I like these kinds of things. Anyway, we got some axles. Hopefully, maybe they're the right ones, probably not. So here we are. I got these axles as replacement. Everything is wrong with these. I paid way too much for them, especially for what they are. I was told they were one ratio. Turns out they're a different ratio, an even worse ratio. Anyway, these are 410s. These were supposed to be 3.73s, which is close, more common. Couldn't find a 410 anywhere. So I figured, well, I'll replace them both with a set of good used axles. These were supposed to be, you know, low mileage, good shape, just install them and run them. Well, I don't see any part about this that I can install and run other than maybe the gear set. This pinion seal is leaking horribly. I guess he had it stored just right so that it was tilted up so that you couldn't see the seal was leaking, and he'd wiped it down and everything so that there's no fresh fluid on it, and I couldn't see any of that. It doesn't look like the end seals are leaking, but who knows? I mean, we might get into this, and yeah, I mean, I see some wetness there, so that's all going to have to be replaced. And basically these are all going to have to come apart to be able to use them. And I wasn't worried about these outer portions because, well, I know that these outer portions are good. The backing plates, the drums, the brakes, all of those assemblies. I wasn't worried about that. What I was worried about was anything that had to do with that would require extra time. So now I have to pull this pinion yoke. And of course this is a 12 bolt, so it has a crush sleeve in there. So I have to get it back on exactly right, because I don't want to recrush the sleeve and go to all that extra time and expense and skill, basically. I was trying to avoid that to begin with. At least I don't have to set the gears up if the gears are good. I haven't seen inside them yet. We're going to look at them together. He sent me pictures. Hopefully the pictures were accurate. That's the rear. Let's take a look at the front. Front is even worse because it has more moving parts. This is locked up. I can't even turn it. It did turn a little bit when we got there. Pinion seal does not appear to be leaking on this, so I mean, that's good. The problem is all of these ball joints and everything appear to be not so good. You can see the steering bar, the rubber boot's completely missing, broken stud. Again, none of those things are individually showstoppers, but it all adds up into time and energy and things I didn't want to do and pay for. And I paid extra money to supposedly have good axles that I could just bolt up under, and these are not that. Again, I didn't do my due diligence in spending half an hour going over these things in the guy's lot, but they were billed to me as ready to install, ready to go, nothing wrong with them. I have no problem with that. If you're going to sell me a used axle and tell me what's wrong with it, and you know, price it accordingly. But yeah, I'm very frustrated with this situation. But anyway, not much I can do. We're in this now. We have them. I may just end up swapping the whole outer section of these axles onto here. Probably replace whatever ball joints and everything I need to replace to do that. It's going to be a pain, but we've got the axle out here and we can rebuild it accordingly. So I think the procedure here is going to be to strip this down as far as possible, do what I can do, and then take this axle out, swap the new parts over to it, and then roll it in. Now, a lot of people commented that I need to put 1 ton, 3/4 ton axles on this thing. Yes, that would be great. I don't have the budget for it. I didn't even have the budget for this, but you know, hindsight's 2020. I probably could have gotten a good set of 3/4 ton axles, and of course I would have had to buy new wheels and tires, and well, in the end it would have been a higher budget, but I probably wouldn't have lost out quite so bad as I did on these. Well, that ship has sailed. Doesn't matter. We're here now. It's just money. You can always get more of that. That's water under the bridge. Let's take a look at this. I'm going to open this up. We're going to see what's inside. Confirm that the gears are okay, because if they're not, that really is a showstopper. I don't have the facilities or all the equipment to rebuild a gear set the right way, and I don't want to do it the janky way because it won't last. They're not forgiving for that kind of thing. You have to get them spot on to make them last, and that's probably the reason that one went bad. Whoever did that probably didn't do it right. That doesn't look like a factory install, or it probably wouldn't have worn that way, because nothing's loose. It's just a bad, you know, just a bad pinion offset and gear lash adjustment and all that is what it looks like. So we're gonna strip these outer plates, brakes, everything, pull the axles out, open up the pumpkin, take a look. Let's open this up together and see what lies await us beneath this. I had to go through a lot of calisthenics to even get this guy to pull the cover to take photographs for me, because I was driving a long way to pick these up. I'm so tired of buying anything on Marketplace because it's just all lies and crapshoots. That's all it is. Everybody's trying to screw over everybody else, and nobody's honest anymore. Honestly, I wouldn't be surprised if this guy took a picture of another one and then sold me these. RTV. So, I mean, yeah, the gears look good. There's yeah, they look good. Okay. Spiders look okay. Yeah, it's just that pinion leak. A little bit of rust up here. I don't like that, but we're going to drain and refill this, so it doesn't matter. There's some rust up there. I guess this thing sat with this part out of the oil for a while. Everything I don't like about this is the ring gear is kind of notchy. I don't know, maybe it's supposed to be that way. We'll be looking at the bearings when we change the seal, or at least the outer bearing. No markings on this. How did he know what gear ratio it was? There, 12/41. I mean, the gear oil looks good, but you know, that's easy to replace and fake, but I don't have any reason to fake that. Now the gear set looks really good. It looks really good inside. And the pinion is so bad it is leaking. It's just completely leaking just as we sit here. Alright, I'm just going to keep this fluid in it till, because I'm waiting on seals and things. We'll keep this fluid in it for now. You gotta disassemble the outer ends, but easy to pull the cover when we go to pull those C-clips. I mean, this is runnable. So I'm going to stake this and paint mark it, and we'll put it back in the same place, and hopefully that'll preserve our crush sleeve. I'll mark the pinion. Probably, ooh, there's probably some of this paint will come off, but we puckered it up. I don't know, it'll be close enough, I guess, maybe. Oh, now we see how hard it's torqued. Should be a couple hundred foot-pounds. Not very much is the answer. Not very much at all. Oh, that came off way too easy. I don't like that. Well, I guess it is well lubed. Well, bearings feel pretty good. Yeah. This looks pretty good. There's, well, that's just dirt. I'll clean that with Scotch-Brite. Alright. You can still see our marks. That's good. We'll leave that to sit till our seal comes in. And then we'll replace this seal. And then we'll put it up under, and then we'll finish it when it's on the truck, because it'll be easier to pull the axle pull the axle shafts out to replace those seals. And I'm going to replace the outer seals. I have those on order, and I know everything with the brakes and everything is good on those, so we'll just swap those parts onto these backer plates, and then we'll be good. Seals are in. Hopefully they're the right ones. They appear to be correct. So, axle seals, pinion seal. Alright, let's put this stuff in. All the old parts are off of the old axle. I just basically stripped it, except for I might remove and keep the pinion yoke. Sometimes if they break or if you need a spare, I don't know, but everything else here is pretty common and easily gettable on a 12-bolt core. And of course nothing inside is really any good anymore. So basically we're just going to pull that cover, drain the old fluid that's in there, pull the C-clips like we did on this one, and slide those axles out, and then we'll pull off the backing plates and just slide these whole things on. The old axle shafts that came out of the axle originally in this truck, you can see it was sitting for a while because it's rusted on top here. And you know, when something sits for a long time, get that rust scale build up because all the oil, it's sitting out of the oil for so many years, and it just, you know, even though oil tends to leach into some metals over time, if it sits long enough, you will get that. So you can see it was sitting a long time, and I'm sure that wasn't good for any part of the axle either, but we hardly drove it, so I'm sure that didn't contribute anything to the gears eating themselves. I think that was just mostly pure adjustment. Anywho, we're going to keep cruising along here. Ignore my neighbor's lawnmower. I don't have a garage, so there's not much I can do about that. If you look at that shaft there, there is some pitting and some wear. I can definitely feel it with my fingernail. This one is much better. These are the sides that came off of. driver's side, passenger side. These are actually a little better. This is still, well, no, that one's not any better, but this one is. I might reuse the better of these two if the spline count and everything matches. I will verify that. I think they're the same axle shafts. So the bearing appears okay. I don't know if it is, but I didn't feel any movement when I was playing with it. But the bearing itself, I don't know, it seems all right, but it might not be. I'll take these seals out and we'll get a better look at it. Sometimes those are really soft metal and these are really hard metal, so I might slide the new one in and make sure it's not loose, and if that's the case, I'll just run them. Don't do what I do, replace the bearings, but I think the bearings are okay from my educated guess here. Okay, brakes are bled. Everything is hooked back up. I got to put fluid in it. Gear oil. I got to change that vent, hook up the drive shaft. I wanted to show you the old C-clips. This old axle was very, very worn in every single way. If you look at that C-clip, you can kind of see the groove being worn in there. And if you look at, this is one of the old axles, you can see that it's cupped. This top is kind of cupped downward in the groove there. This is what it's supposed to look like. This is one of the newer axles. You can see it's nice and sharp. So I did, they were kind of both worn this way, but I used the better C-clips when I put them back in. And the one axle I used is from the old axle because it had a better bearing surface, but it also had this little bit of C-clip wear. But hopefully that's got a lot of life in it left yet, because it still isn't, you know, bad. It's just starting to wear when it shouldn't. You know, you just get too much back and forth and play, and so, and then eventually your C-clips get loose and drop out, and then your whole axle fails and, you know, comes right out. It can sometimes. It happens. C-clips are a problem sometimes when they get old. Anyway, that would have needed addressed at some point, all of that stuff anyhow. I think we used mostly the better parts of both axles, and it seems like the bearings and everything, I went back and double checked. I checked the main bearings on the carrier, and there's not very much play. I think it's, you know, it's within tolerance, basically, is what it is. We got bees. We got dirt daubers building in here somewhere. That's not good. Get out of there. Quit looking for a home. I see them flying around. Need to get this thing back on the road before they start building nests in it. So I think we're ready to hook up the drive shaft, and then, you know, final checks and everything, and then drop it down on the ground. I'm going to see if I can find a set of lug nuts to use these spacers. If I don't have any in inventory, I'll probably not put them on for now. I'll order lug nuts or something and we'll put them on at a later date. But for now, we're getting there. This has been, These are like 105-degree days down here. Picked like the hottest days of the year to do this, but this is the time I have to do it. So before I crawl back under there, you know, my whole body under the truck, I would like it down off these jack stands and down on the wheels. So we're going to get the wheels back on it first, and then we'll crawl back under and do the final drive shaft hookup and everything. So okay, onward. Okay, rear axle is in. I am extremely tired. Yeah, it looks a little better with these spacers. I did find lug nuts to match the spacers. Those are, I don't remember what the thread pattern is of a 3/4 ton truck, but I believe those are the right lug nuts, because I think those are off of my C20 utility truck I had a while back. I swapped them out to put on the lug nuts with the outer threads for the decorative cap. Anyway, it looks pretty good with the spacer. These spacers, whatever they are, 1.5 inches, 2 inches, whatever they are, they're just about perfect side to side. On to the front. Grow. Okay. So I've swapped the axle assemblies. You'll notice I have not swapped any parts between the two yet, and I don't know how many parts I'm going to swap. The outer seals actually seem pretty good. The hubs spin free, the bearings are good. They lock in, lock out, fantastic. Overall, this axle may be, other than the ball joints, this axle may be in better shape than the other one. The old one, I got to looking at this, and the yoke and the pinion bearings are not in as good shape as I had initially hoped. So if somebody wanted to use this axle, they would probably want to change the pinion bearings, which is a decent amount of work. It's not simple. Rather than doing the right thing and buying a new one, I'm just going to swap this old junky stabilizer onto this one. I'm sure that won't have any bad side effects. The only main difference between these two axles, other than the hubs are a slightly different handle design, the steering stabilizer is swapped. The bracket is over here and the hole in the arm is over here. I don't know what that signifies. Why did they change that? Is it going to affect the handling in any way, shape, or form? I don't know. So the main thing fighting us now, we can't run this as is, because these are studs on that axle. They're bolts on the lift kit arm. So I unbolted that and I just hung it there. This new arm isn't as tall, so they can use the studs. It has these taper washers. Hate everything about them. I'm going to pull this wheel off so I have a little bit more access. Ideally, I would just swap the whole knuckle, but to do that, I have to disassemble everything. I have to pull the axle shaft out, pull that whole knuckle and the ball joints off. Do the same over there, swap the whole, it's a lot of work. I'd rather not do it. So I'm going to try to fight these taper washers out. It's kind of funny because any video you watch on somebody taking these taper washers out, they'll be like, okay, I'm going to take these taper washers out, and then they'll show you it. Then they'll put the camera way over there 50 feet away, and then you'll see them over here banging on it for 20 minutes, and then they'll go get the camera and bring it over and look, I got them out. Well, there's a couple different methods to do this. Some people just bang on the arm here with a hammer. I don't care about breaking this because I'm not going to use it, and I have no use for it. You can try to jog them loose with a hammer just like you would on the outside of an axle on a bigger truck that has taper washers on it. You can do that method. You can try to take them out the right way. I have tried to lift up with a chisel, and all I'm doing is I'm chiseling the taper washers away. They're that locked in. So I don't think this is going to be easy. I have tried a stud puller to kind of try to twist it a little bit to kind of loosen up the taper washers. And even the stud puller eventually just stripped the threads on the stud. It's gonna be fun. Gonna try hammering it, jogging loose, gonna try some heat, gonna try all the usual methods. The main parts seem runnable. They're not great, but they're runnable. For a while anyway. And before I put any money into this, I would like to test it. You know, we haven't even heard the gears in this or anything run. That's the task of the day. These bees are coming back. Bees, hornets, wasps, mud daubers, I don't know, whatever they are, starting to annoy me. I think they're building another nest. Got me the other day, stung me on the finger, and I got mad at them. Anyway, let's get cracking, see if we can get this steering arm off. Well, I managed to get it out by beating on the arm. And just like people have said, the best place to beat on it is right here where the numbers are. And that just jogs the things loose. The studs were a little bit more of a bear. I got one with the stud puller, but then it actually broke my stud puller, which is a snap-on stud puller, but I was using a stud puller for a straight shank like this, not threads, because I didn't have this size in threaded. Anyway, don't do that. I sacrificed a tool, but the other ones came out with just using a jam nut and turning it out that way. Got them out, and I guess the only thing holding us back now is this broken stud. I'd forgotten about that. I think my plan from the beginning was to just reuse these hubs, because I know these hubs are good. Pull these hubs off and put them on there. I think I'm gonna hope that the drive shaft is the same size. If they're not, I can just take that completely apart, drive one stud out, and reuse it in here. That's fine, but I'd like to switch the hubs because these rotors are a little, well, these rotors are aged. These rotors are a little more worn in and not quite so rusty now. So all right, let's take these hubs apart, take those hubs apart, see what we wind up with here. So of course I can't just swap the hubs because this is a much larger diameter for the bearing surface, so I guess we're stuck with pressing the broken stud out and putting a new one in. That's just fun because it's, well, yeah, that's annoying. It's especially annoying because I can't reuse this better rotor. We are on the home stretch now. This hub is good now. I replaced the one stud with a stud I removed from the other axle rather than, you know, buying a new stud. And brakes back on. Over here, same deal. We've got a replacement stud ready to put the brake and the shock back on. And then we just have to take off this completely roached steering stabilizer and put it on there for no good reason, because I'm sure it'll do nothing. But and then we can put the wheels back on and see everything we did wrong, basically. So this is the final day. I think this has taken me about 6 days of work. Not full, like, 8-hour days, but pretty close. And it is really strenuous labor if you've never done it completely yourself before. It's a full body workout, because well, all of these bolts hadn't been off in 30 years, and well, the new axles aren't great, and anyway, we're gonna keep cruising along here. I think in the beginning I had said that this axle wasn't in tremendously great shape, not much better than this one over here as far as ball joints and everything, but I mean, the ball joints are there and they're greasable and they're relatively intact. This steering link arm that bolts to the stabilizer here, this ball joint isn't so great, but it is intact. It just, I don't know how long it'll last. I haven't replaced any of that stuff. Basically, I'm going to take this out on the road and test it and see how bad it is in its current state before I put lots of money into it, because if there's something inside that I'm not aware of, or if it's noisy or something, I'm just going to be pulling this out again and basically starting over. So I'm not going to put money into this axle like I did the first time around on that other axle and have it be wasted. Okay, she is back on her own 4 feet again. Steering damper is pretty well shot. It's pretty much decorative at this point, but I did put it on. Should get a new one of those. Should have gotten a lot of new parts. Yeah, I cut a lot of corners by not replacing all the bearings and completely rebuilding both these axles when I had them apart, but the stuff's good enough to run with. I don't have the budget to put in, $1,000 of parts per axle and the extra time it would take to completely rebuild them. So I did check the front ratio when I had it apart. Double checked, because don't trust anybody. They are both 342s. In a truck like this, what you want to do is actually go the other way. You want to go up towards the 5 region, because you get better acceleration out of this low horsepower diesel. Sure, it's got lots of torque, but it doesn't have lots of horsepower, and you need that extra acceleration at low speeds. But it will give us a higher top end. I don't know. The next stage is to test drive this thing and see what we did wrong by not replacing any bearings or parts, and see how much noise it makes, essentially, and see what falls apart. So test driving is the next step. Okay, time to drive this thing. Oh, we got dump trucks going by. All right, put you in the center here like I usually do. All right, how's this gonna work? That might work. I don't know how much you can see, but yeah, it'll probably work. All right, there was some glow plug Dump trucks are going in across the road. Neighbor must be building something. A little more glow plug. Give her 25% throttle. Let her warm up a little bit and we'll go for a spin. Oh, forgot I had sunglasses in here. I put my shades on to be cool and everything. So, I'd be lying if I wasn't a little nervous because, you know, none of these axles are tested or anything, and I just went to a whole lot of work to put in untested axles. So, yeah, you know, this is always fun. Now, let's run her forward and back a little bit, make sure that, you know, at the very least we got movement. We got movement. No funny noises, that's good. Oh, we got no brakes. Did I not do a good job leading them? Should have tested that out long before, you know, the first test drive, but well, we kind of got brakes, not really, but enough for a spin around the neighborhood, maybe. Well, gonna try it. I'm shifting at a much higher RPM. We're shifting too low on the first drive. Some of you commented on that, and it's because my track is a little jumpy. I had to go by the sound of the engine, and I could hardly hear it over the noise of the gears. Steering is nice, but the steering wheel isn't even remotely centered. I believe that's just a pitman arm adjustment. The throttle wants to stick a little bit. That's not good. I think you might have hit the governor there for a second. She's been sitting a while, that's probably why it wants to stick. sudden. I don't like that. Stiffening up a little bit. That's good. I don't know why, but throttle wants to stick. I don't like that. We're going to have to look at that. Probably the cable. Throttle cable's definitely sticking. A little bit scary there. Third signal doesn't want to stay on because my steering wheel's so out of whack. So we can fix that. So axle noise completely gone, but we've got a couple other issues to resolve. So even if I straighten the steering wheel, sometimes it gets a little wonky at speed. At first it was doing pretty good, but on the back road, the uneven back road, it was really kicking around, almost like a low-speed death wobble, but that's not what it was. Yeah, so we fixed some of the axle issues, but that front axle, you know, got some squirrels still in it. Wish this jack could come around. Got to re-bleed the brakes. Definitely not doing. Oh, there's a little bit there. Let me. Yeah, now we got brakes. I don't know what it was. Yeah, and that throttle cable. We'll add that to the list. Okay, so that's about centered on the steering wheel there. All right. So, how did it drive? So, loose steering. I think that's probably the steering box. But what about the new gears? Well, I actually prefer the new gears. So in its current configuration, with the 342 gears and the engine that's in it, and the SM465 transmission, and the MP205 transfer case, and the Isuzu 6 BB1 diesel that's rated at about 125 horsepower, but I don't know, it's gobs of torque though, but it drives about the same as my blue crew cab 1978 square body with 350 and the SM465. it's about the same driving experience, you know, acceleration wise and everything else, which is weird because this, I believe that one had 411 gear ratio in the back, but this has so much more torque. You just, I don't know, you know, you put the hammer down and you feel it more. The old 350 and the 78, or even the 350 in my El Camino, it's about the same. But this actually feels better than the El Camino, because the El Camino has like 273 gears in it, and so the driving experience is actually quite good. I was worried the acceleration would be poor when I was building this thing, and it turns out it drives quite normally for what you'd expect from a vehicle from 1975. If you're looking for something new, you know, to compare it to, well, you can't really do that, because it'll never compete with that. But as far as, you know, getting in a classic from 1975 and expecting it to drive, it's pretty normal, which is surprising because this is a naturally aspirated Isuzu diesel. This is nothing special, but it'll run forever. So driving experience now with the new gears, definitely approved. I prefer it. I did not test the top speed out yet because I want to fix the steering. It's a little loose for my wishes. Oh, the brakes. I think the brakes were soft because the calipers in the front, I had the calipers were pushed in because these rotors were thinner, the ones I put on. So I think till it caught up to the rotors, I think that's why the brakes were mushy at first, because, you know, I had to pump them a whole bunch to get them to close in on the rotors. So I think that explains that, because, you know, about half a dozen pumps down the road and it got much better. So I think our brakes are back to where they were before. Yeah, a few things we need to take care of, but driving definitely improved. All right, she runs and drives with no noise now. Got a few more shakedown issues to address. I am going to look a second time at the front axle here going forward. I'm going to center the steering with the Pitman arm there, get the steering wheel so it's not in the middle of your gauge cluster and annoying. And I mean, it'll never track straight because it's very loose. This gearbox, well, yeah, it's a loose gearbox. It's just the way they are. It's probably incredibly old. I do have another gearbox that came with these axles if I need to, but I don't know if that one's any tighter without actually hooking it up and running it. So I don't know, we may or may not do that. Gotta look again at the throttle cable with it sticking. It's a different sticking than before. Before it was really hard to press and it was sticking. Now it's easy to press, but sometimes it just sticks. Gotta look at the routing, maybe something needs lubed. The cable itself was fine before, so maybe something shifted at the pedal end where it's kind of a little loose. And I think I need to make a bracket where it goes through the firewall, basically, is probably what we're gonna do. But those things are gonna be in a next shakedown video, because this video is already getting kind of long with all the, I know there's a lot of time lapse. I really tried to condense it. I apologize to anyone who wanted to see all the nitty-gritty details, but a lot of it's just boring bolt turning. Anyway, we fixed the axle problem for not a lot of money. How much did this cost? Well, I don't know exactly. It was less than $1,000. It was too much for what it was, basically. The rear axle seems to be really good. Everything's holding up. The front axle, like I said, might need some adjustment or ball joints or something. We'll have to know. We'll have to find out. When I took it out on the first stretch, it was doing great. It's when I went on the back road that there wasn't, you know, the back roads are kind of a little uneven, and it started to kick around a little bit. Not kick around so much, but not respond as tightly to the steering wheel. So we might look on tightening that up a little bit. It might be the gearbox, because it was a little bit like that before, so we'll have to see. But like I said, spare steering gearbox, I don't know, that's a separate issue. We're gonna look at that. I know these shakedown videos can be kind of boring, but I said it before on the first shakedown video, I want to give this, you know, the full, you know, nitty-gritty and you know, everything that goes into sussing out all the things on something that's been sitting for 30 years, because A lot of people see a YouTuber put a truck back on the road after sitting, you know, in a field or something, and they gloss over a lot of this stuff, and it looks so easy to people, you know. And I just want to dispel some of that notion. Sometimes it is, don't get me wrong, but for the most part, it's going to end up like this, where you're going to have to spend a lot of time and money to get it truly roadworthy. Can we drive this thing right now? Yes, we could drive it. You gotta make sure that throttle isn't sticking, and kick the pedal to jog it loose before you downshift and stuff like that. So I would not want to daily drive it like this right now. So next time you see this truck, we're going to be doing the shakedown again. That's going to be it for this video. Leave your comments down below. I do appreciate everyone who takes the time to watch these and watch my pain and suffering on this shakedown. So as always, thanks for watching.